Our mission is to fractionalize access into the property development market, helping our members build their own future. So to achieve this, we built a solution that offers our token holders never seen before access to real estate development investments here in the UK, all through the use of Web3 infrastructure. I suppose I've already mentioned Modus started a solution. So the best way to describe the solution is to get into our origin stories. 2 years ago now, one of my co-founders, George Henderson, was working with a property development fund in the UK. They spotted a gap in the market. So there was a plethora of undercapitalized developers who could obtain bank funding, but didn't have the equity to put into the projects themselves. So they set about taking clients' money and investing it into highly lucrative development projects across the UK, offering extremely high returns. These clients were made up of high net worth individuals and family offices alike. This fund, however, was frequently approached by small ticket size investors who were increasingly frustrated with lower returns and the turbulence of the stock market, and believed in the concept of putting their money where they could see it, in bricks and mortar. And this really got us thinking, what if we could build the most efficient, smart, and seamless way to address both of these needs seamlessly on-chain? And Modus was born. So how does Modus work? Modus is a token-run platform offering developers the opportunity to list their prospective projects for equity investment. Our Modus investors simply need to purchase and stake their Modus access tokens, fulfilling our one-time KYC, connect their wallets, stake, and get investing in USDC. Each development is held within an SPV, special purpose vehicle, meaning investors gain added security of real-world ownership for all their investments, all signed and downloadable on our platform, no matter where they are or how much they have to invest. So by structuring these investments as equity, we're able to bring access to the masses. So the natural question then becomes, why blockchain technology? Well, the short answer is, without the efficiencies that come with self-custody, a trustless system that doesn't rely on any intermediaries or expensive intermediaries, using smart contracts to facilitate the investment purchases, Modus would be too expensive to run, and it wouldn't have the network effects that Web3 models offer. So we also believe that people are beginning to change the way they invest. So I mentioned self-custody. Self-custody and blockchain technology are no longer becoming mainstream. They are mainstream. The Web3 market, as it says here, is expected to grow to over $80 billion in value by 2030. And studies suggest that over 49% of all millennials currently own digital assets. In addition, we believe the Web3 world's maturing. So crypto holders are looking for increased real world users for their cryptocurrency and oftentimes safer investments. Not many asset classes are seen to be as lucrative as bricks and mortar. In fact, there's a stat that we discovered that suggests that the property market has beaten the UK stock market by over 80% since 1989. So that's a fun fact for everyone. So a little more about how our tokens look. So as mentioned beforehand, Modus is an allocation token. The more you own and stake, the more USDC you can invest in projects. As you can see, our allocation tiers here. However, its purpose doesn't stop there. Modus is finite, meaning as demand for our platform and access to it rises, so does demand for the token. In addition, we firmly believe in building Modus into an investment ecosystem for decades to come. Therefore, fees generated by the platform are automatically incorporated into a buyback and burn mechanism and treasury replenishment and other uses. So in terms of revenues, hopefully everything sounds clear. I'm sure many of you are asking, how do we monetize? Well, every time a developer lists and raises for a project, they're levied a set of fees for the platform. Whilst these fees may seem high to the lay individual, they're well below industry standard. The average fees charged in industry is a 20% coupon per annum that's levied by high net worth investors and equity houses who also take a substantial amount of the upside at the end of a project, up to as much as 60% of the upside of a development project, leaving a developer with only 40% of the profit from a project and the profit incorporated in their construction price. However, by fractionalizing the equity amongst smaller investors, as well as assuming the role of an equity house, Modus can pass on a sizable discount to developers that traditional funds just can't provide. So for every project listed, developers pay an asset management fee of 4%, as well as a listing fee of 0.5%. And upon exit from a project, they pay the platform a 10% exit fee. So compared to the traditional equity houses, by using Modus one time, on average, they reduce their costs of access to equity by over 4 times. So let's meet our proper actor. So I suppose finally, who are we and how do you know that we know what we're doing? Well, if you remember, I mentioned the property fund that I discussed 12 months ago. They decided to join Modus because they believed in the project that much. And they brought with them extensive access to development opportunities, as well as an extraordinary amount of knowledge and expertise for appraising these projects. You see Mark Williams, who's our property director. He came from Clydesdale Bank and was in charge of lending a book over, I think, 250 million at the time. Our wider team. Starting from the far right, as you see here, our legal models have been thoroughly vetted and structured by a team who reside at Reed Smith Law. We then move over to the platform development partners who worked on projects for names such as obviously Microsoft, NASA, and the development team's headed up by our co-founder and CTO, Mr. Eve, who we'll discuss later. And further on, you have our tremendous marketing team, and not forgetting, of course, our great property team, Mark Williams, who I've already mentioned, and Guy Lindsay. In terms of our co-founders, Eve, as I just mentioned, is our blockchain architect. He brings with him 6 years of experience in business development startups. His passion for blockchain's potential to create value for all stakeholders led him to design our whole Web3 architecture, really. George, our other co-founder, is a seasoned VC with a track record of funding tech-based companies, bringing them from idea inception straight through to launch. He's over 5 years experience in the tech industry and brings obviously valuable insights. And finally, myself, as a former investment bank analyst and digital transformation consultant, I turned to a real estate investor quite a few years ago now. And since 2017, I've had quite a profound interest in blockchain and cryptocurrency myself. In summary, Modus embodies a powerful movement. So we aim to democratize property investment and allow everyone to participate. Our mission is to establish an all-inclusive ecosystem that nurtures financial growth and enables wealth creation, irrespective of one's background or financial standing. So together, we aim to redefine real estate, ensuring it becomes accessible and safe and lucrative for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Elliot. Well, now moving to the Q&A. David and President, do you have questions for the team?
Can I ask what stage is it at the moment? I don't know if I missed it or not, like the stage and also I'm not like an expert in like, the real estate space, but do you anticipate any like regulatory challenges, and what other challenges do you think you might come across, and if you thought of like ways to fix them?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of stage, we've earmarked our first development project to be raised through the platform for Q4 this year. As I mentioned, we set up a development arm as well as Modus on the side to cater to the developments we look to onboard, so for scalability reasons. And they've carried out 4 developments independently. So we've got currently 4 projects that we look to on list into the platform, but the first one's at Q4 this year. In terms of raising, we've just opened our seed round now, and we're basically relying on our pre-seed partners who are all, let's say, soft committed to raising for the seed as well. But yeah. In terms of the regulatory stance, that's actually what was one of the biggest challenges for Modus right from the beginning. And it's a reason that I always proudly say we are one of the only guys doing this. What we do is we follow an equity model. And what that means is we rely on cornerstone investors. So when investors on our platform purchase access to development projects, what they're doing is they're buying a private sale of shares. Therefore, we're not a collective investment scheme, or what the FCA now would define as a speculative liquid security. We circumvent all of that, which means you don't have to be a sophisticated investor. You can be a retail investor and invest. We set the minimum at $100. You can really invest $1 USDC, but for us, it makes sense to 100 USDC. So in terms of regulations wise, we're fully compliant. Yeah.
Sorry, last question. Like, where do you guys want to get to? I've seen something. It's not really the same. It's in the US, and it's more on like individuals can buy tokens, and basically each month, they get like a piece of the rent.
Yeah.
It's just a bit different from what you're doing, but like, yeah, I'm just curious. Like, are you thinking of like expanding in the future, or like where do you guys want to get to?
Yeah. So obviously we started with development because basically it started as a pain point with me and some of the co-founders as well, that no one, at least in the UK, really could get on the property market. So we thought, well, if we can't buy them, let's build them, which is where we started. And we're really looking at expanding abroad. So first stage of growth is we've earmarked 80 million in GDV, which we have sites ready to do as long as we have the investment capable through the platform. And we've earmarked that for Q2 2024. Obviously that's GDV, so we will enter into the projects then. And then later on, we want to expand into different regions. The next region we're looking at is the Netherlands. And after that, as I mentioned before, we want to build Modus. All money generated by the Modus platform from developers is incorporated in the Modus ecosystem. So ideally, we want it to be a community, a hub of investors for different asset classes, where the Modus token gives you access, but also stands as the reward.
Got it. Thank you.
In terms of Elliot, thank you. In terms of the tokenomics, have you designed them with any third party, or who has designed the tokenomics? For what I understand, you can get into the development project in USDC. So how do you see the Modus token accruing value over time? What is the utility, on top of, like, if you hold, you have access to the projects? Who have you worked with? How are the tokenomics? What is the total tokenomics for Modus?
Yeah, no problem. So, I mean, I can share with you after, it was obviously 6 minutes as time pressure can go through all the tokenomics. So I can share the tokenomics with you after. In terms of running, I think the best way to run through sort of where the value aggregates and goes into the tokenomics. Yes, so you invest in USDC, and the fees that I mentioned that are levied upon developers get taken by the Modus platform and incorporated into a token burn, right?
Yeah.
So what we do is we buy back and burn. We buy back, send the tokens to an Ether address, burn those tokens, right, as a financeable tokens. So you continuously send the income generated back into the value of the token process. In terms of tokenomics themselves, they're developed in-house by our CTO, I think is in the audience. Eve, are you there? Oh, there he is.
Hello. Yes, Eve here.
So Eve can
but also the tokenomics side is also to do with the demand, right? So with two-sided platforms, you have more developers on one side, and then you have more demand from users. So as demand rises from one side, then more developers will also list on our platform, and you get kind of this network effect, this platform theory, where you have both of these parties creating demand for the token, and as there's more demand, prices should increase theoretically. But then also included is that token burn, and that token burn will of course help with extra demand, and that's how we. Yeah, it's based kind of on a launchpad model. To be honest, that's a lot of launchpads use this type of tokenomic system as well, and but we're just using it for development, and
Similar to Trust Swap as well, if you obviously know Trust Swap.